Welcome to Sit Down and Cheer, episode number 69, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Call me crazy, but the best thing about sports is that they are on all day. There's just something awesome about waking up early, meeting some diehard fans, and watching a full day of college sports. That awesome day requires food, good food. That's where B-Dubs comes to play. From signature shareables, famous wings, and handcrafted burgers, they have it all. Get to B-Dubs today. Buffalo Wild Wings is your official hangout for NCAA sports. This week's guest, our new athletics director, Bill Chaves. Welcome to Grand Forks, Bill. We're excited to have you here. Let's jump right into this whole Buffalo Wild Wings diehard fan experience. We know that you're, throughout the day, sports junkie. You love them all. 5 major sports. We're full of TVs here. Major League Baseball. Who's your team in the World Series, and who are they beating?
Oh, boy. So the Astros, I'll tell you what, they had a great year. They really did. They're really young. But I'll tell you what the Yankees did in the offseason, as a Red Sox fan, I'm painfully going to say that they're probably the favorite, and I'm probably going to do that strategically to kind of put the hex on them. So that's so I'm going to say the Yankees. Yankees will be in. Wink, wink. And, playing who? That's a good question. I mean, the Dodgers had a great year, and who knows? San Francisco's with getting McCutchen yesterday. That's pretty big in Longoria. I don't know. Maybe a bounce back. How about that? Giants and Yankees. Like
Nice.
a throwback to the 50s with the Giants winning.
All right, let's shift focus to NFL, but let's add a little twist to it. It's your favorite team in the Super Bowl, and who are they beating?
Well, I mean, of course, they got beat this past week, the Steelers. So sadly, I think it's going to be the Patriots. But here's the deal. As a non-Patriot fan, I am rooting for Minnesota in the worst way this week so that they can play at home, because I just think that would be the coolest thing going. I mean, it hasn't happened. I'm the same age as the Super Bowl. And so that's how I kind of remember how many Super Bowls there's been. And so it's never happened, which would be the coolest thing going. So I'm actually rooting for a Minnesota Patriot game and having the Vikings win.
All right, NHL, we've heard that you were a Hartford Whalers fan.
Undefeated the last 20 years.
Right. Carolina Hurricanes are where they are now.
No, that's nope, not a Hurricane. Nope.
No Hurricanes, so who's in the Stanley Cup?
Who's in the Cup this year? I said it from the beginning of the year, Tampa Bay Lightning. Tyler Johnson from Spokane played on the Chiefs. Tampa is playing great. I can't believe what Vegas is doing is ridiculous, but I think it's going to be the Kings and the Lightning will win.
NBA, shifting to that. Celtics made a lot of offseason moves. Down Gordon Hayward right now. Can they still get to the NBA Finals?
I don't know. Probably, they're going to be in the mix for sure. I think it's going to be Toronto, though. I think at the end of it all, I think Toronto with those 2 guards are going to figure out a way to do it. I think they're going to be my surprise team to do it. I think Cleveland's struggling right now. Maybe they turn it back around like they did last year. But no one's going to beat anybody from the West. I mean, probably going to be Golden State again.
English Premier League, something I don't know a lot about, but
Tottenham. Just say Tottenham.
Just say Tottenham.
Yeah,
Go
when
Spurs.
you say go Spurs, I mean, come on, you Spurs. That's hashtag COYS. Come on, you Spurs.
Before I get into the next question, fans are probably wondering whose voice they're hearing right now. Jason has you out of town dealing with a family issue, and Mitch Wigness is on a cruise celebrating his honeymoon. So my name's Ryan Powell, and I get to hop on and try to steer this boat the right direction with our new AD, Bill Chaves. We got Kyle Doperalski, our associate AD, for external here as well, who will chime in with a question or two. So we'll let Kyle fire away with the next one.
So, Bill, you've got the JV today. Sorry, I mean, it's your first day on the job, but, you just got the JV today. We'll fix that.
How do we know this isn't Lou Gehrig?
Well, the other half of the sit down. Who's sit down and who's cheer? That's what I want to know. Like, as long as I'm cheer, I think we'll be okay.
I don't know how that really works out.
Folsky's like the only regular here at the table right now.
But
maybe they
really
haven't identified who
going.
was who yet.
Yeah, he's really keeping.
And we've
the
got
ship.
a studio audience, which is I think maybe a little bit unusual for this. So yes, we turn on the applause button. So, Bill, obviously it's been a whirlwind of the last few days. You were just on our campus interviewing for the position last Wednesday and Thursday. It's Tuesday, your press conference day, as we sit here and tape this today. The best you can in a couple of minutes, just walk us through gaining to campus. Winter storm Betsy hits us. You fly back to Spokane, Cheney, visit with the family, get offered the position, obviously accept, and trying to get the logistics all worked out for here today. I mean, man, what's going through your mind? What's going through your family's mind?
Yeah, it was interesting. And you know, I think you just take things one step at a time. That's all. And got back truly on Thursday. I didn't think I was going to get back to Spokane. I was in Grand Forks. I didn't think I was going to get to. I thought I was going to get to Minneapolis. I didn't think I'd make my flight from Minneapolis to Spokane, and I did. That was the first upset, which was a good one. So we got down and got home midnight on Thursday, and my wife had to go with my son for a 3-day deal up in Canada. So when things started happening. You know, it was kind of interesting because she wasn't around at that point in time. So that got a little tricky. She didn't get home till about 7 o'clock Sunday night, and then I was gone first thing Monday morning. So it's, you know, I'll see her tonight, and then we're going to probably regroup a little bit and try to figure out what's transpiring. But it's been a whirlwind. It has been. But, you know, I'll say this, is that incredibly lucky and very fortunate. And you just kind of take it one bite at a time. That's all. Just what's next, and you just get it teed up, hit it.
All right. You were an AD for 10 years out of Eastern Washington. Good run out there. Tell our fans listening kind of some of the roles before that and where you've been that led you into becoming an AD.
Sure. I was an associate AD under Ian McCaw at a couple different places at Northeastern, UMass, and at Baylor. And so those are the 3 stops I had with him. But prior to that, I was at actually Northern Colorado in Quinnipiac, and so started my career in the field of media relations, or what it was, sports information back in the day, as I said to Ryan. Right. And you know what that did, and as we were driving over to lunch today, we were talking about it, is I was a Division II SID, and I was the one-person shop. And so that gave you an idea of how to juggle, how to communicate with coaches and staff and expectations, and I think it's kind of served me well in the role that I'm in right now, because there's so many different constituencies and there's so many balls in the air, and if you have really good communication and you can let folks know what they can expect, to some degree then it's up to those folks to understand that and to deal with some certain things. So, but I've been on the external side of the house. I mean, that's kind of where I grew up, and so I think the one thing that's happened for me from an AD perspective is I've gotten a complete appreciation on all the intricacies on the inside, the internal side of the house, whether it be from an academic standpoint, a compliance standpoint, and then further, I've been lucky enough to serve in the NCAA structure. And that's given me perspective on where the industry is right now. And even though, they're meeting, actually today's Tuesday. They're meeting tomorrow, Wednesday. So I'm getting pinch hit for tomorrow by Leon Costello from Montana State, who was at South Dakota State, because this is all interconnected. It's just been, an awesome opportunity to be able to have those connections, because now I come into this role, and although I have to learn a new community, learn a lot of new folks in a great institution, but there's certainly a lot of people already I don't have to be introduced to within the Missouri Valley or the Summit League.
All right, one thing that you were able to accomplish at Eastern Washington, among many I'm sure, was win an FCS football championship, and obviously here in the Peace Garden State, our friends to the south have had some success doing that. We won a Division II national championship in 2001. Maybe touch a little bit on what you think it took to get to that level at Eastern Washington and what we can expect maybe on the football side of things here. Yeah,
let's flip the other way. We've actually lost at Eastern 3 semifinal games at home. And so that just goes to show you win it one year, you need a modicum of luck to some degree. And there was probably luck that year. And I would say if you were to place those 4 teams in a bracket, I'm not sure the 2010 team was the best team of them all. They had unbelievable chemistry. and the right things happened at the right time. But I would probably guess that we had other teams that might have been more explosive, and for whatever reason just didn't get it done. And so and when you get to the playoffs, you just try to get in the 24-team field. That's the very first thing you do. Out of the 24, I would say truly 16 probably have a shot to run the table if things broke well.
Right.
And you got to get lucky. You got to make sure you don't have the injuries. You got to have the right matchups. Probably 8 teams probably really don't have a shot to run the table. But boy, you just saw Youngstown State from Missouri Valley last year. They got hot at the right time. They did. I mean, they got hot, and I knew that hot team was coming in, and I still can't believe he caught it on our kid's back. But it is what it is.
How about your family, Bill? You've got a wife of 23 years. You've got 3 children, one who's a high school senior right now, and then 2 younger boys at home. What can you tell our fans about your family and the different places that they have lived? Most of them Cheney for the bulk of their lives. Speaking of your children, obviously you've moved around, but what are some of the things about your family that you'd like our fans to know about?
Yeah, Kyle, I'd say that what's probably rare in this industry is they got to Spokane at 7-4-2, and at least they were able to get a decade, 17, 14, 12. That's hard to do in this industry. So knock on wood, very, very fortunate there. But 3 kids that all were born in 3 different states, so Massachusetts, Texas, and Colorado. And so they've got a little rivalry there, and they're going to be living in North Dakota. So we've probably checked a lot of United States boxes there. But they're all doing their different things. My Aaron, my oldest, and Kevin, my youngest, they're both into the theater. That's kind of their niche, if you will. Kevin he's also does Kaji Kembo, which is a form of it's like 5 disciplines of Hawaiian martial arts. He's a brown belt, so he's close. I mean, I'm telling him he's got to try to knock it out before he leaves to become a black belt. So that's kind of cool. And then Derek he used to play soccer as well as hockey, but then he gave up the soccer. He says he likes skating better than running. So, and I don't blame him, actually. And Liz was a soccer player. Actually, she played Division II soccer at St. Anselm College. And so if you were to really say who's the best athlete in the family, my guess is, I don't know, the chips would probably be on her.
How did you guys get together? What was the story there, you and Liz?
Yeah, we both from Enfield, Connecticut, and we're 5 years apart. And I just happened to run into her after our college days and, had a date, and that was about it. And away you went. And, before we had kids, we did the Hartford Whaler season ticket thing. And, I don't think she missed a game in 2 years. So I was working at Quinnipiac, and they had a strike-shortened season in '95. And Rick Zablocki worked with me, and he then ran the Whaler tickets, the store, and that strike-shortened season, he had tickets to every game, and he just didn't use them. And so we went to all those games. Then we did the last 2 years. And if you ever watch a team leave a city and be at the game, it was probably one of the most impactful games I've ever been at in my life. I mean, it was awful. It was awful. And then right shortly thereafter, the Sonics left Seattle. And I'm not even, honestly, a Seattle fan per se, but it just hurts, to watch you lose your team. It really does. And it always happens for a variety of reasons, but and I get that, but it's tough.
Segue, kind of the heavy lifting that was done by our previous AD, Brian Faison, shifting to you. And what do you learn from Brian Faison? Because obviously you admire what he did here for the last 10 years, and you've talked a little bit about how our Division I sports programs aren't even into their teenage years yet.
That's great.
Just talk about that and talk about what's in place and how you want to move things forward.
Yeah, I think as I've said today, everybody has their chapters, and people will assess. I had a chapter at Eastern Washington, and only time will determine whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. But the reality of it is Brian has his run, and you just always hope to take the baton and go. And his time, he had certain situations that he had to work through, no different than I'm going to have my situations I'm going to have to work through. So I like Brian a lot. I think he's stand-up guy, and I've always gotten along with him, and he was great through, sending me congratulations when he heard the news. And, I was very, I probably had a little bit different opportunity to reach out if I wanted to folks, because I've gotten to know people, and I made a conscious effort to not do that. That was not, to me, fair to anybody to do that. And so if it was going to be me, and if I was the right person, then it needed to go through the process accordingly. And so, Brian's been awesome. I can't wait to talk with him now that the process is over. And I haven't talked to anybody, and so I look forward to it as we move forward.
So, Bill, as we check our Twitter accounts at Sit Down and Cheer, we've got a couple of questions that have come in, and a couple questions tying some football items together from Eastern Washington, and then here at UND, the Gateway Project out at Eastern Washington. There's some parallels there between Phase 2 of our HPC that a lot of our fans and a lot of our athletic department staff and supporters are looking forward to talking quite a bit about. What can you talk about in terms of those two and some of the similarities that you have learned so far, at least, about HPC Phase 2.
Correct. That's fair to say. What I know so far, I know the Gateway. So the Gateway Project, if you go back in time, at that stage of the game, it was a really good idea and vision because some things hadn't happened on campus, and it was really going to be not only an expansion of football, but it was going to have all other types of services for students that were not currently on campus. Well, since then, our Pence Union building, which is our pub, is getting renovated now by a vote from the students and they're paying for it through their student fees and bonds. So the Gateway, although it was an awesome vision at the time, is actually an outdated vision in a sense because all of those services are now being done somewhere else. All that to be said, I do hope the expansion piece works out at some stage. But at a regional comprehensive, all entities need to be aligned to make things happen. Other institutions, sometimes they might have more of an opportunity to do some things than other institutions. And so I stand, ready and excited to learn where it stands right now and what the possibilities are, but it's probably still a little premature.
This is your second AD job. First one was started 10 years ago. Rewind 10 years. What did you learn maybe in that first year as being an athletic director that you can carry into this job?
I think when you become a first-time AD, or I guess in that sense, a first-time head coach, and because I'm working through it right now, or at least currently until I wind down at Eastern with our head football and basketball coaches, even if you're there, it's hard to go from like the top assistant to the head coach. There's so many other things that are in your world that you have to deal with. I think, when you go there the first time, you spend the first year trying to find your voice. Truly. I mean, sometimes you think what you want to say, and then you go, did I really say it that way, or what should I be saying? And sometimes less is more. And, I've found that, I think I'm an okay distiller. I distill it down to what I think we need to be talking about at that point, and you move on. And maybe early on, I maybe didn't distill as well as I'd like to.
How does that look coming to Grand Forks, coming to UND? We haven't touched much about hockey, but that's probably the big difference between Eastern Washington and the University of North Dakota in terms of what sports they have to offer. What is having maybe a hockey program that is a premier program that's always going to have a chance to maybe win a national title? What does that do for you, like just as far as opportunity or excitement level?
Yeah, I mean, you just know there's tremendous support for it too. So, I mean, I'd rather have support than no support and have to build support. But when you're dealing with multiple conferences, that's always a trick. No question. And so you're always kind of balancing that. And then you're balancing, the world that they live in with about 60 to 65 programs versus other sports that are dealing with 350 programs. And so there's just a balancing act in some way, shape, or form. But I almost look at it this way. I know there's tremendous support for hockey, obviously. There's tremendous support for North Dakota athletics, but it's almost like you have multiple fan bases that you got to try to figure out as well. I'm originally from Connecticut, and, you know, the women's basketball fan base is far different than the men's basketball fan base, and then they're trying to create a football fan base and now a hockey fan base. And so, you know, it's not easy, for sure, but I think if you look at it from those viewpoints, you might have some crossovers. But again, I think in a sense, we just need to figure out how can we maximize all of the experience for our fans at all of these sports that we obviously are ticketed to.
How about your career, Bill? You've been at several different schools, a lot of different highlights. If you can pick one or two from each stop and try to boil that down, I mean, at the end of the day, why do you do this? Why do you like college athletics? And is there a moment or a game or something that you can pinpoint and say, yeah, that's why I do it? Was a certain win or a certain meeting or a certain feeling throughout your career that you always look back and say, yeah, that was really cool?
Yeah, I think the older I get, I'm more excited about things that are like someone came in and it was going to be a big deal for this student athlete to get a degree because it's the first one in their family ever, and so you change a family tree that way. And Eastern has a lot of first-gen type students, and those are big deals because you know you've changed literally the trajectory of that family forever. I remember the losses more than I do the wins. I'll be honest with you. There's some. I mean, if you're going to, it feels like it's so painful in certain losses than the sort of ecstasy to win per se. I just, I don't know. Of course, everyone is keeping score. They want to win the game. But I just feel horribly sad for our student athletes and our coaches when they suffer a tough defeat. Obviously winning a national title was huge. I was at Baylor when Kim Mulkey won her first her first title as well. And that was neat because that kind of came out of nowhere. That team kind of started gelling at some point, and I knew they were going to be pretty good. And sure enough, they ran the table that year. It was unbelievable. So there's been some great programs I've been around, but I know this: coaches are coaches. Good coaches are good coaches no matter what level. It could be youth sports up to pros. I mean, and if you're worrying about the right things at the right time, and you provide a great experience, you know what? You're going to have more good times than you are bad times.
How about our industry overall? A lot of turbulence right now as opposed to maybe the last several decades. There's the name, image, and likeness and the recent tax reform bill and the amateurism issue, and we could go on and on. But as you look in your crystal ball the best you can, what do you see in the next 5 to 10 years in college athletics, and how does the University of North Dakota fit into that?
Yeah, I just still wondering how it's going to work out with the Autonomy 5 schools. I don't think that story's been written per se yet, but the one thing I will say though is, and I think I said it last week in the open forum, is that I think they really wanted to go to cost of attendance route, and then once they kind of did that, there hasn't been a whole lot of bigger initiatives that have really come down the pike. So from that perspective, I don't know. It would be interesting. The transfer piece is going to occur. I don't know. I just think we're going to be regionally fit here for the next X amount of years, and it should be exciting regardless. I mean, regardless of what happens nationally, it's not going to change the fact that there's going to be excitement on who we're going to play from a conference perspective.
All right, we kind of opened it with who you thought would be on the big screens here for all the major championships, but let's rewind in your life in this whole love of sports. When did it begin? How young of an age were you just enamored with sports? You grew up on the East Coast. Talk about some of your favorite teams and allegiances, and maybe have some fun questions with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it started with the New England Whalers. I mean, that was it. I mean, Bob Newmeyer was the play-by-play guy, and playing WHA and Bobby Hull and Gordie Howe was in Hartford at that point. His two sons were playing, Mark and Marty, and that was kind of the indoctrination, I guess, to kind of pro sports at that stage. But I don't know. I think my father was a sports nut for sure, and big Red Sox fan, huge Red Sox fan, still alive, 80 years old. And I was glad he was able to see him win it once, but now it's twice and 3 times, so that hasn't been the worst over the last 10 years. I don't know. I just started reading the sport page early on, and don't ask me why. It just that was my passion from soup to nuts. But growing up, I hung out, as you do with kids until you graduate. And the one kid I graduated with, or he was a year behind me, played in the NHL for 12 years and was on the '88 Olympic team. And I'll tell you what, that guy was an athlete, and I'll tell you what, I was not him. I mean, I was okay, but you could tell I was an intramural athlete, and that guy was a pro. I mean, that's it. He was an Olympian, and I was not. And so I had to figure out pretty quick, if I want to be working in this thing, I better do something else. So that was a pretty good realization, and hopefully it was okay self-awareness too.
Talked about New England sports teams and your affinity for them, but then getting to know you a little bit better, Pittsburgh Steelers comes into the equation. Kind of explain how a guy from New England is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that I started reading at an okay age. I just didn't understand what New England was. And so at the end of the day, when I was 6, I knew I need to follow Boston sports. I knew hockey was off the table because we had, even though the Whalers were in play there, I guess I didn't connect the dots that it was the New England Whalers and that I should go with the New England Patriots. But had no interest in the Patriots, watched the Immaculate Reception literally live on TV, where I think NBC had Frank Harris when they'd had their cut-in at some point in time, and I think that's the truth. But I watched it live and became a Steeler fan. They didn't win that year, lost to the Dolphins, who went undefeated, and then they won 4 in 6 years. So that was pretty good. But then we had a tough stretch. I'll tell you what, it was kind of the Mark Malone, Bubby Brister days, and those didn't go great. So. But, it's been good that, the Cowher, Tomlin years have been great. And you know what? They're always in the mix. And they always seem to disappoint just a little bit because the Patriots seem to have everybody's number right now.
Yeah, tough day for the Steelers on Sunday. We touched on that a little bit, but
they deserved it. They did.
Got to play some defense, right?
You got it. I mean, right from jump. They got jumped. And you know what? They just didn't respond.
But what else happened on Sunday? And for people in this region, it really
was the Vikings.
It's
unbelievable,
right? You talked about immaculate reception. I don't know what they're going to coin that phrase. Paul Allen, their play-by-play guy, called it the Minneapolis Miracle or whatnot. But what a cool moment in sports. And,
awesome.
And Kyle kind of touched on it, but just that's kind of what it's all about, right?
Well, for the Vikings, and again, I have no skin in the game at all. I do have one lifetime friend that's a Viking fan, but they've had a lot of sadness. I mean, and so to have one of those go the other way, my guess is that pain, talking about that, what Kyle mentioned, they'll remember Sunday for sure, but still the pain of some other seasons, the one that 15-1 year, I mean, they were easily the best team in the NFL that year. I mean, but, and that's with no dog in the hunt. But I don't know. Like I said, it feels like it's going to be the Patriots. So it might as well be different this year. You have to go play at Minnesota. I think I would like that lead up into it, too, because it would be a lot of complaining probably from Foxborough, which would be okay with me.
Been a busy, crazy day for you, and we're talking about sports and rivalries and things like that, but pretty cool way for you to end your first day as our athletics director, driving 80 miles south down to Fargo and seeing our men's basketball team try to get one back because they got us here in Grand Forks a little over a month ago. Just to be able to end your day getting a taste of that rivalry right away, how cool is that? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure you can cap it off any better way. It's like cherry on the top of the sundae. So I'll be interested to see how it all plays itself out. Now, I saw that. You give me a piece of that. Do we have a shot tonight? How does that all work? I mean, I know they got us here. So
they did get us here. We had one of our Cortez Seals. You've been in the league long enough.
Yep.
He was the Big Sky Reserve of the Year last year. He had a personal matter, a family member passed away, so he went home. He went home for a funeral and missed that game. And the guy that he would have been guarding that game, Paul Miller, went off for 30 points.
Got it.
So we have that factor to throw back into it. The road teams won the last 4 in this series, so we got that going for us.
That's weird. Okay.
And NDSU shot very well.
They did. They jumped on us 11-0, and we got back within 2 points twice, even late in the half, and then they went on a little run. You know how runs go. You exhaust so much energy to get back in the game, and once that happens.
Really looking forward to it, though, and it give me a really good indication of a lot of different things. And, you know, I hop on a plane tomorrow and try to unwind some things from a decade here for the next month and a half or so. But it just gives me some perspective, which is really, really good, and looking forward to it.
So I got one last question. Your official start date, March 1st. Give us a real quick rundown of the next 6-7 weeks for you, if you'll be back in Grand Forks or not until March 1st. A lot still probably up in the air.
Yeah, good question, because I know that there's potentially some other meetings, maybe other places, and so I just got to lay out the calendar and just figure out what makes sense. And here's what I do. I do trust the team that Brian's put in place and Danielle, and I'm going to trust that things will keep on going. And you know what? I'm going to be monitoring and being in touch with folks, but I'm going to try to do my best. And I think I mentioned it today on one of the interviews, is I have a responsibility to leave Eastern as good as I can leave it. And that's, you spend 10 years anywhere. I do believe that's a complete something I've got to leave there so that people say that's the best exit someone's ever had from the institution. So that's at least the short-term goal, and then I'll figure it out. But maybe the answer is maybe at this point in time. But I got to kind of figure that one out.
Yeah, I know, Bill. If people dig into your resume a little bit, they'll see that during your tenure there was an FCS football championship won. Men's basketball team went to the NCAA tournament. I know that because those are the sports that I work with. I've seen the job that you did there, and I know that me personally, I'm excited to have you here. I know that a lot of people in the community are excited as well. You know, I get that. I'll see you next week. I think Thursday night we're playing the Eagles in hoops.
So there's that.
There's that you got to put on your radar.
So there's that. So there's that. But that's right. You know what? When because Eastern was here, a couple weeks ago, and I almost kind of thought it was kind of interesting. They played very short time in between. That's a weird schedule, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay.
Because we played you guys to start the Big Sky play in Grand Forks around New Year's Eve, and then we're going to be back out. We play the Bison tonight. We're at Northern Colorado. This is men's basketball on Saturday, and then we have the Eastern Idaho trip. So we'll be out there playing there at Eastern Washington.
Well, if it means anything, I'll give you this, and this is the only thing I can come up with, is so we were in the women's soccer championship this year, and when I was at UNC, I actually was the chair of the hiring committee that hired Tim Barrera at UNC's soccer coach. So then we played in the championship against UNC. So I actually hired both coaches.
Nice.
So I'm not sure if there's anything connected to that, but that's what I'm going with right now.
Cool. Nope, it's been great. Good catching up with you. I know that you've had a busy day, and I think for at least the next couple hours, this is your final interview. So
how about
you're going to get a little downtime and then get a car ride down to Fargo, and I know you have a big dinner planned with the president of NDSU and the AD there that you already have a pre-existing relationship with, so it'll be good for you guys to chat and get to see each other, and then 7 o'clock tip-off, we'll be there.
I appreciate you all, really. I mean, and I appreciate the day. I appreciate everybody that has greeted me so well today, and you can feel the energy and you can feel the fan base, and I couldn't be any more excited about getting after it when I come back.
All right, we appreciate you joining us here at Buffalo Wild Wings for this episode of Sit Down and Cheer.
We'll do it again.
Places to follow: Sit Down and Cheer, iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, as well as follow on Twitter to keep up to the latest episodes. This has been Sit Down and Cheer, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. We appreciate getting to talk with our new athletics director, Bill Chaves, as the guest today. And remember, nothing makes watching sports all day more fun than being with friends. And what turns that same old hangout into an awesome party? B-Dubs Takeout. And it's easy. Call ahead, order online, or download the B-Dubs app. Then drive to Buffalo Wild Wings and pick up your order. You'll save some time and still be the MVP. Buffalo Wild Wings is the official hangout for NCAA sports. Let's eat.